Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Angel Storm. Welcome. Today I am answering a question that is actually very common, and particularly because right now we're in the middle of still having some issues with COVID, and people aren't really sure how to get away from the narcissist or the situation that they're in terms of their living conditions. So the question is, how do I get away from a narcissist if I live with them? So how do I essentially make the narcissist leave? So just to be clear, the question that was posed to me was, how do I get away from the narcissist in the middle of the pandemic and all that kind of stuff? And I have a video that's a longer video, and it talks about how to use quarantining to your advantage to actually plan your escape from the narcissist. So you can check that out. If you actually need help putting together an escape plan, so you are in danger, but you don't have a plan together, you're not financially able, or you're not emotionally able, or maybe you don't have the connections or the resources or whatever to actually leave the narcissist, please go to my website. It's in the description of this video. Click that. A PDF is going to download immediately. You don't need to enter in your email or any kind of thing. It's just going to download immediately to whatever device you're checking it on. And there's tips in there. There's resources to help you get together an escape plan, okay? Because it's very important that if you choose to leave the narcissist, that you bring everything that you need. You're going to have all of your documentation. So you need your birth certificate, your social security card, your passport. You're going to need money, your car keys, some clothes. It helps you go through and track exactly what you will need in order to leave the narcissist if you are in a dangerous situation. So if you just need to get out of the house, you want to make sure that you take with you some very important key items. And this is especially if you are an immigrant. If you are with the narcissist and your relationship with the narcissist is dependent upon you being able to stay in the country that you are in, it's very important that you check out the escape planning before you just up and leave the narcissist, if at all possible. I mean, there's some situations where you just got to get out of the house, and I understand that. But if you can give yourself a few hours to get your things together, you need to do that. So that is the stance that I'm taking, because I've got other resources on how do you leave the living situation. But if you want the narcissist to get out of the house, you want the narcissist to be able to leave, there's really only a few options. Number one is that to recognize that this varies by state. There's actually some states that have protective laws already in place for people who are in situations that are considered domestic violence. Believe it or not, every state has its own definition of what domestic violence is considered to be. In the U.S., there are federal laws. There are federal laws, overarching laws that say these are the laws. Like, we all know about the Violence Against Women Protection Act. We all know about that one, for example. Each state, though, has the ability to decide what they want to do underneath those kinds of guidelines. And so, for example, Wisconsin, has a law that basically says if there's domestic violence happening and you're in a lease, so you do not own the place that you are living in, the landowner cannot try to come after you for damages done to the apartment, for example, if there's domestic violence going on. And there's a whole bunch of other things. They won't ever contact the person that you're trying to get away from for child support and things like that without your explicit written permission, because some people just need to get away. They don't care if they have money or not. For their children, they just need to get away from the situation. They don't want the person to be contacted again. They can't be held responsible if the person that they are living with, whether or not you're married, is going to pay rent or not. There's certain things that were set up to kind of help people who end up in a domestic violence situation get on their feet. And usually when you sign a lease, you are given instructions on how to kind of like invoke those rights that you have. So you're told about where the nearest domestic violence shelter is, how to start implementing some of these things like rental deferment and or get on a rental assistance program, similar with like the utilities and all that kind of stuff. They can actually help you with that. So every state is different. I just use that one as an example because I'm familiar with when that law was passed and all of this kind of stuff. So I knew what was going on there. Every state is different. So you want to check out your specific state's rules and laws in terms of what is available to you if you end up as a victim of domestic violence. And by the way, the reason I'm saying this is because every state also defines domestic violence differently. So some people say it must include physical violence or threats of physical violence, but some do not. Some say it's physical, it's emotional, it's financial, it's any type of coercion. It's kind of threatening somebody to stay in a situation that they don't want to be in. So you need to look up the definition in your state. That's how you're going to know what's available to you from there. But overall, an eviction is number one on how to do this. Now, there's different methods for each state, again, depending on what state you're in, to invoke such a thing. How do you get an eviction? Usually this is going to have to do with a protective order, so a restraining order, which is the easiest and quickest way to get somebody removed from your home, is a restraining order, protective order. And to get a protective order, I highly recommend you go to a domestic violence shelter because they are very familiar with the wording that needs to go into the actual court documents that you're going to file. They will file the court documents for you, and it's unfortunate maybe, but when the court sees that it was actually filed through a domestic violence shelter, they're more likely to approve it. They're more likely to approve the temporary restraining order that you're going to be granted until you have the final hearing. And during that time, if they do grant it, they will provide the police escort to come and either physically remove the person and their belongings from the home that you all share, or they will help if you have left and he or she is still in the house. They will escort you back and escort the other person out. So you want to make sure that you have the legal protection, which all of this stuff kind of comes along with a protective order. So you want to be able to do that. An eviction, if you have a protective order, it's very easy to get an eviction. You will need to probably go to a housing court of some kind. You're going to need to just basically state your case. Sometimes a court will say that, so-and-so can't come back to the shared living space for X amount of days, weeks, months, or maybe even years until the situation is completely judged on, ruled on. And if that's the case, the court will also help you set up a time for the other person who's ever being evicted to get their things. So that's done in a peaceful and protected manner. If you want to have the person evicted, this will also depend on whether you're married or not. And this is going to vary by state because each state is going to have its own rules. Some states will say that unless there is a restraining order, you cannot keep the person out of their home. So if that is your shared property, and especially if you're married, if you aren't willing to go get a protective order or restraining order against that person, you could legally be held responsible for keeping them outside of their property. So it's really important that you know your specific state's laws. And the best way to find out what your state's laws are is to look up in your area where you live, the county that you live in, a domestic violence shelter. They can answer questions over the phone. Typically they have lawyers who are volunteers with them who can answer any kind of your legal concerns and things like that. Some other ways that you can find out about your specific state's laws is finding the legal clinics. Every courthouse, even during COVID, still has legal clinic hours. So you want to check and find out what your state is doing in terms of when their legal clinic is. It might be every day, it might be once a week, it might be once a month. Every place is going to be different. You need to look up your specific county to know what that is, what those rules are going to be for you. I just have a couple more thoughts I want to share with you on this topic. Number one, some people will say try to reverse psychology the narcissist out of the home. So basically say, you know, I could never leave you. I don't know what I would do if you ever left me. If you left me here by myself, I would just be, you know, broken and I wouldn't know what to do. I've mentioned this before in many of my videos, which is that number one, narcissists are extremely good at reading energy. Very, very good at reading people. You must know that. That's the reason that you ended up in this position anyway. The narcissist was able to immediately find out your weak spots and play on those, prey on those. So it's very important that you recognize a narcissist is going to be able to tell when you're lying and when your energy isn't sincere. Number two, a narcissist is very good at what they do. A narcissist will be able, you're not going to outsmart the narcissist in a narcissistic game. That type of manipulation, the narcissist is very keen to. They know all about it. You're not going to beat a narcissist at their game. You know, you're not a narcissist. And no matter how long you've been around a narcissist, there's going to be a tell that you have that's going to give you away to the narcissist, which could make your situation ending up in a much worse situation than what you find yourself in currently. So I just want you to be aware. Is it possible that you use reverse psychology to convince a narcissist to pack up their stuff and leave? Yes, it's possible that happens, but you also need to recognize that even if the narcissist chooses to leave, if you have a lease together, if you are married, there are still certain legal aspects that you're going to need to resolve and take care of. And so if you are not willing to do those kinds of things by either the eviction, the restraining order, the other things that I was talking about at the beginning of this video, if you're not willing to do those things, recognize that you could still be legally responsible for not only all of the stuff that the narcissist was or was not paying with you, but also if the narcissist want to come back. If the narcissist decides later on that they want to come back, you might legally be made to let them back in until you have these legal issues cleared up. And so again, you could be putting yourself into a worse position than if you were just willing to follow the necessary paperwork and go through the legal process, whatever is necessary in your situation, in your state, and in your county to make it a permanent solution. So that's also something that I want you to keep in mind. The last thing that I want to say is my personal recommendation is to not just tell the narcissist what you want. Do not just try to say to the narcissist, I just want you to leave. I would like to be alone. I do not want to live with you any longer. I want you to pack up your stuff and get out. If you just come out and tell the narcissist what you want, you're giving them ammunition, right? I've said before, anything you say can and will be used against you. The narcissist is going to figure out a way to use anything that you tell them to hurt you, to harm you, to damage you more, to deepen that trauma bond, whatever it is. So recognize that the more information that you're sharing with the narcissist, you are giving them ammunition and fuel. So my personal opinion on the matter is that you should be gray rock. Okay, I have a video that talks all about that. You can go check that out if you're not familiar with the term. You should go gray rock. And in the meantime, you should do your research and gather up your evidence. You should have a bag together in case you do need to just get out of the home, and it has all of the things that you'll find in the escape planning checklist. You want to make sure it has all of those items in it. You can even keep it in your car. Do whatever you need to do to get all of that stuff together. Number two, you want to legally research what is required of you if you want to stop living with the narcissist. You know, whether you're married, you're not married, you own, you rent, what is your state's laws? You need to know those things, and what is the process that you need to go through if you want to stop sharing a living place with a narcissist. You need to do that because there's no one way or the other that's going to catch up with you. Like I'm saying, you either do it right on the front end of things, or you try to get through the legal process if the narcissist decides that they want to leave. And you can oftentimes end up putting yourself in a worse situation. It's very unfortunate, but a lot of times if you are the victim of a crime, if you are the victim of abuse, and you do not come forward the moment that it happens, it's often used against you, which is absolutely horrible. There's actually lots of research that show how traumatizing it is for a victim of a crime, especially a violent crime, that would come forward to tell their story, and that the process of discovering what happened, like the investigation process, and then not to mention the prosecution process, actually going through court to find justice for whoever perpetuated the crime, is often more traumatizing than the actual crime itself. So recognize that this is not, I don't agree with it. I'm just trying to give you all of the information that if you aren't willing to deal with it on the front end, recognize that you are going to likely end up going through something much more difficult, much more strenuous, much more traumatizing than if you were just to get your plan all the way together. Including in that plan, I would just like to say, I suggest getting yourself a help system. So somebody who you share your plan with. You trust this person is not going to betray you, and they are going to help you escape that situation, leave that situation once and for all, regardless of how many legal hurdles that you need to overcome. So my opinion on the matter is that you get your go bag together, you have your escape plan, you have all the items that you need ready to go. Number two, you've researched all of the legalities of leaving the narcissist if you are living together. And again, that depends on your state, on your county, and on your specific situation. If you're married, if you're not married, if you're renting, if you own, all that kind of stuff is going to have an impact on it. So you have done the research, you know what's required, you've gathered up the evidence, you're cooperating, you know the process for filing a restraining order, the process of eviction, whatever it is that you need to go through, and you're prepared to go forward. You want somebody who knows all of that stuff, who can hold your hand essentially and just go along with you. So that's really a long answer, but I do hope that this video has helped you, especially if you really do want to leave a narcissist. If you are living with one, you want to know what the ramifications are of making such a decision. And I just want you to be fully aware and fully able to process everything that you're about to walk through. I do think it's the best decision. I've mentioned it many times on this channel, but I do believe the best decision is that once you recognize that you're with a narcissist, is to get out of it. Because no matter how long or how much you think that this person is going to change, the science is clear on it. Number one, very, very few people are ever able to get it under control. I'm not talking about rehabbing. I'm not talking about totally never being a narcissist again. I'm talking about getting it under control to where it's manageable, and I'm talking about years of therapy. Okay, the science is clear. And number two, if you've been following this channel, you know that this is a spirit first, and I don't believe you can counsel a spirit. So this is, you're entering into something deeper and deeper and deeper the longer that you let that thing sit in your house, the longer that you share a home with that thing. This is going to get deeper roots, okay? This is true of any kind of thing in the natural. It's certainly true in the spirit realm as well. So my opinion on the matter is do what you need to do to get out the moment that you recognize that this person is a narcissist. Because chances are that you had been, prior to you recognizing and coming to the realization that this is a narcissist, you probably already have mentioned that you go to therapy. You probably already mentioned the things that you want them to change. And there's probably likely been zero movement in any of those areas. And for those reasons, you must see the situation for what it is. And it is best for you to just face the devil that you're dealing with now than to let it continue to grow into something bigger and you're facing a fight that you're ill-equipped to win. So doing something sooner rather than later is my personal opinion. Like 99% of the time, that's going to be the best option, the best choice for you. So I hope this video has helped you. If you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel below, and turn on the little bell so that you're notified whenever I upload a new video to this channel.